Hello, everyone. You're listening to Cinema 5000. My name is Mallory. This is my podcast. Happy September, everybody. We are moving very slowly through the month of September, as I mentioned in a prior episode. I'm a bit busy, bit vacationy, and it's questionable how many movies I'll get to watch. And regardless of what I watch, I don't really have the time to record an episode, so to speak. So yeah, the next episode should be in a couple weeks, at least not until the week of the 15th of September, so probably a bit after that date. We'll see. But why don't we just talk about what I've seen? So we're at 5,849 films. That's 151 until we get to 6,000 and season 3 of the podcast. I don't think it'll be done this year. I hate to say it, because we're coming towards September, and I've only done like 130 something films new, so I would have to have a very harsh winter, I guess you could say, in the months of November and December, even though winter starts the end of December, because I haven't had a lot of time to watch movies, but who knows what could happen, what the world holds. We need to start, though, however, with the film A Kiss to Die For. This also goes by the title Those Bedroom Eyes, which I think was the title I found it under on Tubi. This is from 1993, directed by Leon Ichasco. The tagline is, "Amid a city of terror lie the eyes of death." William, a Harvard psychology professor, is having trouble dealing with his life after the death of his wife when he meets a beautiful woman named Allie. As their relationship grows, he begins to question her secretive past, which he discovers is linked to a series of murders that the police are investigating. Tim Matheson from Animal House and The West Wing stars, as does Mimi Rogers as Allie, the woman we meet, who William is very much seduced by. Those bedroom eyes. Oh. So they start to have this relationship, and things are going kind of slow for William. He's like, I want to really like you, and she's holding back, and he doesn't know why. How could she do this? But then things rev up. And they rev up from a place that actually starts how they met. They met on a train, and they had let's just say an encounter on the train. Very funny scene. I should mention this in the context of this movie. This is actually a made-for-TV movie. It feels like a basic cable movie that might have aired on like USA, not TNT, because the way it's edited and done, there's like nothing graphic about it. But as we start to learn more things about Allie, like they're very suggestive things that make this definitely a film for adults. I should also mention for you William Forsythe, I can't speak, William Forsythe Completus. He is also in this film as a detective trying to figure out what's up with Allie. And unfortunately, this is a movie where a lot of my feelings about it kind of hinge on the ending of it, because it seems like, nothing's going right with this relationship, even though they really like each other. And you're kind of wondering what's going on. And then something happens at the end that's like kind of the twist. And it's just handled really badly. And it just made me like feel awful about the movie and the way it's doing things and what Allie's behaviors are and what her actions are. And it's kind of like a mystery movie as it goes along. It's not really a thriller. And then once the mystery is revealed, it's just kind of like, oh, that's it. It doesn't feel good. So unfortunately, I had to give this one 1.5 stars. I really can't recommend it. I have seen worse movies on Tubi, that's for sure. And I was hoping this would be like one of those erotic thrillers that really had something going for it. But no, it's not. It's not very entertaining. It's not very well made. And so we're kind of just waiting for it to rev up, and when it has its reveal, it's just kind of like, oh, that's it. And considering this was the early 90s, where like there was this thing about sexy psychiatry, and people going to see a shrink and having their private lives investigated, blah, blah, blah. This kind of falls in line with that, I would say. Though, no, the payoff isn't successful. So Those Bedroom Eyes, or it's called A Kiss to Die For, from 1993, directed by Leon Icasso. I know I'm saying that wrong. Again, I said I had to give this 1.5 stars. It's only 91 minutes long, but I mean, no, not really anything of note here. And another thing, it only has 137 members who have seen it on Letterboxd. That's so funny. And yeah, even though this has like the feeling of like basic cable, I can also imagine that like this went just like straight to video, but how and why? How would a movie like this go straight to video? It just doesn't feel like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. It's just, it's not worth watching anyway, so let's move on. Up next, we have Honey, Don't from 2025, directed by Ethan Coen. The tagline is, "She only has 2 desires, and one of them is justice." Honey O'Donoghue, a small-town private investigator, delves into a series of strange deaths tied to a mysterious church. This stars Margaret Qualley as Honey O'Donoghue. She's a woman who kind of has her own throwback style. She likes to investigate crime and keep it simple, and all the while protecting herself from the evil that men do in her town of Bakersfield, California. And even though this isn't necessarily an older film, like its setting isn't like the 70s or 80s, Honey O'Donoghue could have definitely been a character in like any kind of movie from the 70s or 80s, like kind of employing older habits and behaviors and fashions in her looks. She's not really a modern woman in a lot of ways, and I found that very refreshing. I liked this character. There were things about her that were so like intriguing, and I liked the way Margaret Qualley played her. It's a good performance, and not like her best performance to date, but it's something that like she can lead a movie. She can do it on her own. She doesn't necessarily have to have like a Demi Moore on her side. Oh no. And even though like Aubrey Plaza is in this movie as like kind of the second lead for the, well, not second lead, as the major supporting character, she doesn't really have a huge role. And neither does Chris Evans, but you can kind of guess that by the way like the trailer is for this movie. Chris Evans is this this church leader who he has a flair for seduction in his own way. And there's a lot of seducers in this movie. But the way it plays out, Honey is like up against a world where women are taken advantage of. And there's many, many moments in the film where I just felt like the touch that Ethan Coen has allowed this film to have from his counterpart, Trisha Cook, who's actually his wife. They wrote it together, they produced it together. It feels like a stronger touch and more successful way to talk about women in movies and the way that they react to a world where, fathers are abusive, where men try to hit on women, even though they're like clearly like, please leave me alone. It's a little more successful here than in their prior collaboration film, Drive Away Dolls, which I thought was okay. This, however, does have the much better Margaret Qualley performance. I didn't really like her in Drive Away Dolls. She was just a bit too cartoony for me. Even though that movie is kind of cartoony, it wasn't really working for me. And in this one, I liked a lot of the side characters here. Aubrey Plaza, as I mentioned. Chris Evans is okay, but it's not like a serious role in any respect. And yeah, the way the movie talks about how Honey is investigating this like drama and what's going on. You go on this journey with her and everything's like kind of on a need to know basis. And I can see how this wouldn't work for a lot of people. It's definitely a quirky film, something that feels like it's in the vein of a Coen Brothers movie, even though it's just one Coen brother. And I found it to be just delightful in some ways that make it feel like a 90s kind of comedy movie. Like you could do a double feature of this and The Big Lebowski. You could also do like a double feature of this and like any kind of feminist drama where women are really grappling with relationships and dealing with men around them. Female Perversions was one that came to mind. Something that I saw like in recent times that I really, really enjoyed. I think I saw it earlier this year. There's some slight parallels in both films, the way it talks about women in relationships and also younger women and how they deal with the world around them. I don't want to spoil this, but I found Honey Don't to be a good film that had a lot of bits to it that made me feel like it was on the verge of being a great film. But it's not quite there. Nevertheless, I had to give this one 3 stars. I definitely recommend it. I had a good time with this one. There's nothing like quite goofy about this movie, I will say that. It kind of like wants to take a straight path, though there's nothing straight about this movie, let's just say that. Yeah, Honey O'Donoghue is your lesbian private dick without a dick. That's what I say about the film. And I just found her to be really, really great. And I would like a sequel. I know there probably won't be one. I would like a TV show, even though there probably won't be one. I really would enjoy like seeing more of this character. Like, there's enough going on here that it worked for me. Yeah, so 3 stars. Honey Don't from 2025, directed by Ethan Coen. I'm interested to see what Trisha Cook and Ethan Coen do next. I know people on the internet were very much like, this is why you need both Coen brothers, blah, blah, blah. I gotta say, there's something about this movie like really like worked for me better than some Coen brother movies. I'm not saying I'm a hater. It's just that I'm not like their biggest fan. So, you know, the vein of the humor and stuff like that. Obviously, No Country for Old Men and like True Grit and Blood Simple, much different ballgame that they're playing with. But yeah, like I said, I'm interested to see what Ethan Coen and Trisha Cook do next. Now, up next, I've got 2 films that are very much related to each other, and we're going to start with the first one, The Galapagos Affair, Satan Came to Eden from 2013, directed by Daniel Geller and Dana Goldfein. There's no tagline for this film. Darwin meets Hitchcock in this documentary. Directors Dan Geller and Dana Goldfein created a parable about the search for paradise set in the brutal yet alluring landscape of the Galapagos Islands, which interweaves an unsolved 1930s murder mystery with stories of present-day Galapagos pioneers. A gripping tale of idealistic dreams gone awry, featuring voiceover performances by Cate Blanchett, Diane Kruger, and Gustav Skarsgård. Now, I found this documentary to really not as being as intriguing as this so-called setup here. A lot of the way that the story is woven and told just kind of felt like it was trying to make things out of what it was to be a bit more sensationalized. Sure, like there are dynamics between people on the Galapagos Island who were all kind of like living on their own, but then people were being taken advantage of and such, and maybe like the relationships between them wasn't so great. Yeah, I get it, but the way this documentary is made, it's a bit of a snooze, like really too long for what this is, and I think some of the voiceovers are not so successful. Now, I had heard about this documentary many, many years ago. It played at the Telluride by the Sea, a local film festival, which is actually coming up in a couple weeks at the Music Hall in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I will not be going this year, but I have gone in years past, and the year this was playing, I didn't get to go. I think it was like the opening night film in 2013 or so. Yeah, 2013 would make sense. But I finally got to watch this documentary, and I had heard about the Galapagos Affair in general. And now watching it in this documentary, I was kind of left wanting to learn things that the movie didn't really do a good job of conveying. Or I don't know if like the documentary just flat out like was like, you know, cutting things or whatever. It just didn't feel like complete. It didn't feel very satisfying as a film, as a documentary, and just way too dry for what this material is and what it's trying to say. That like this is like some kind of, yeah. Darwin meets Hitchcock, you know? No, I'm not really buying it here. I would say watch this if you're interested in the story of these people on the island and, you know, what was going on, so you can try to figure out the story for yourself and see if, like, you believe whoever. But, no, I just was not really a fan of this, so I had to give this 2.5 stars. I should mention, and I don't always have this problem, believe me, I do not. But it took me 4 tries to finish this documentary. It was so incredibly dry and just one note in the way it was telling the story. Like, I think that's a huge fault. And we're talking about a documentary. I think it's really, really hard to make a bad documentary. Even when a movie is like so off the wall, like fudging the details and stuff, it can still be compelling and a good experience, right? No, not necessarily with this one, and maybe even 2.5 feels too strong of a rating for what this is, like, because it wasn't very satisfying. Maybe I'd give it 2, but no, I'll go for 2.5 stars for The Galapagos Affair, Satan Came to Eden from 2013, directed by Daniel Geller and Dana Goldfein. Now, the next film is most definitely related. It's Eden from 2024, though now getting released in 2025. It says 2024 because it came out in 2024 and premiered at the Toronto Film Festival. It's directed by Ron Howard. This was in theaters, and when I saw the trailer for it finally, after hearing about it from Toronto, now I want to say it had good reviews for Toronto, but then in recent times, like pre-release of this, people were like, "Oh, it got bad notices at Toronto." What is the truth? I heard good things. But anyway, inspired by the accounts of those who survived. A group of disillusioned outsiders abandon modern society in search of a new beginning. Settling on a remote, uninhabited island, their utopian dream quickly unravels as they discover that the greatest threat isn't the brutal climate or deadly wildlife, but each other. Now, from the get-go, this does such a better job than the documentary of really talking about these people and their problems and, how awful the land was and, like, why did they come here? Why did they do these things? Well, the folks in this documentary and this movie are German people. And so Germans getting out of Germany in 1920s and 30s Germany. Yeah. You can guess why they would want to leave. Jude Law stars in the film as Dr. Frederick Ritter. He has his lady partner, let's say that. Are they married? They are married. Sorry, I'm really messing things up. I was confusing myself. So Dr. Frederick Ritter, played by Jude Law, is married to Dor Strauch Ritter. So the two of them live together. Dor has not the best health. She's doing just okay. All the while, Frederick is like trying to do his writings. He's a doctor in the academic sense. He's not a doctor. Or, he doesn't really want to do anything for anybody else. Let's just put it that way. He's very much a biological academic doctor. He's not like a, anyway, I'm saying too much. One day coming to the island is the family of the Whitmer family, played by Sydney Sweeney, who's playing Margaret Whitmer, and Heinz Whitmer, who's played by Daniel Bruhl. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, why is Sydney Sweeney in this movie and married to Daniel Bruhl? I actually think this was good casting. You needed someone who has a very plain face, frankly. Sorry, Sydney Sweeney, to play the young wife of this guy. Now, she's supposed to be much younger than him, and she is. Their son has been very ill and needs to come to the island with its better weather. The thing that people did back in the day. It's like, oh, you're sick, you're ill, well, go to somewhere else that doesn't have such harsh winters and, awful times and seasons. So, the Whitmer family coming does disturb the Ritters. However, the thing that makes everything go awry is the arrival of Eloise Bosquet de Wagner Verhorn, who's played by Anna de Armas. She is a baroness, so to speak. She's full of shit. She's crazy, she's kooky, she loves everybody, she loves life, and I thought Anna de Armas was terrific in this part. She's not, like, great in this movie, but this is not a role that requires a great performance. This is a role, frankly, she's doing almost Gal Gadot. Enough champagne to fill the Nile, but if it was like supposed to be very chaotic and unbelievable and annoying, she is so great. And I liked her facing off with like Jude Law and Daniel Bruhl, and then the other women who were just like, oh my god, can you believe this woman? She brings two young men with her along the way, and it's suggested that they all just, they just sit around and fool around together and just like have sex and eat canned food on the island. And what ends up happening is that the Baroness does not have enough food supplies, so what is she going to do? Oh my! She is a woman from France, and she couldn't possibly eat food off the land. She needs her precious canned goods. So naturally things kind of go bad, and the rift between all parties involved gets awful, and things happen, and the Baroness says she's going to be, building a hotel on the island, but is it ever going to happen? Now, this is a very dramatic version of what happens. Sure. But it's fun. I really enjoyed this. It's the kind of movie that just isn't really made these days. It's like an adult drama, a tinge of thrills, but not really. It's about real people too, so it can only be so exaggerated and thrilling. And Jude Law is like chewing the scenery and being such a ridiculous man. And Daniel Bruhl like probably has the least to do here, but then again he's just like kind of serving I'm actually German and I'm a husband. So but yeah, Anna de Armas and Jude Law, really good. Vanessa Kirby was good here too. I feel like she should have been this just a little bit more, but she's like sort of the embodiment of like how this island can kind of destroy you. She has not been healthy and she's struggling to really keep it together, and living with Frederick, he's like, you know, he's a little off the wall, and she's just kind of like, Frederick, how dare you, Frederick, blah blah blah, and they kind of have spats, and it's fun. I wish this was like a little bit longer, a little bit more, I don't know, it kind of needed a little something else that it kind of can't deliver in the hands of Ron Howard, but I enjoyed myself. Like, I would recommend this to anybody who wants to watch like a kind of just adult drama with a little bit of zaniness, just a little bit of you know, kooky people, like what are we doing here? They just don't make them like they used to. It's also a good looking film, and something I really want to mention is that Hans Zimmer's score for this, really great. I really loved how the score told you so much about what was going to happen, even though it didn't really need to, because I mean ultimately everything about this movie is like, this is a disaster, what happened to these people and the situation on the island, the tragedy of things, and they had such good intentions. Yeah, very exaggerated, very theatrical as far as a version of the Galapagos affair, but I do recommend Eden from 2024 though, just recently in theaters, directed by Ron Howard. I gave this 3 stars. No, it's not going to be my favorite movie of the year, of course not, but I had a good time and it delivered what I wanted it to. Now, our final film is Caught Stealing from 2025, directed by Darren Aronofsky. 2 Russians, 2 Jews, and a Puerto Rican walk into a bar. Burned out ex-baseball player Hank Thompson unexpectedly finds himself embroiled in a dangerous struggle for survival amidst the criminal underbelly of 1990s New York City, forced to navigate a treacherous underworld he never imagined. This stars Austin Butler as Hank. He has a girlfriend, Yvonne, who's played by Zoe Kravitz, and he's just, you know, kind of going through the motions with life. He doesn't have a lot of money. He's working in a bar. He's having good times with his girl, Yvonne, and then one day, his neighbor, who's played by Matt Smith, Russ, he's got to go away. He says, "Oh, I got to go to London. You know, I've got some problems," and he asks Hank to take care of his cat. Well, it turns out there are some bad dudes who are looking for Russ, and when Russ isn't around, they just take out their problems on Hank. Hank gets beat up, and he finds himself embroiled in a lot of crime stuff. I don't want to spoil it. It's a brand new movie. But essentially, Hank is a piece of a puzzle he never wanted to be involved with. And people get hurt. There's a cat. There's, you know, money involved. There's something missing that they need to find. It's a lot of craziness. Now, it never really turns itself like up to 11 with the zaniness. It kind of keeps things a little grounded for probably like 3/4 of the movie. And then the ending is like where it like picks up a little bit more when things get a little bit more intense. But it's more so Hank just like going like, wait, what's going on? Okay, fine. All right. I don't have the thing. I don't know what happened. Oh no. All right. Let's move. Let's go to this next thing. Yeah, it doesn't really, how do I say it? There's a lot of crime movies that have come out that are a bit more kooky and maybe like a little exaggerated with like the personalities. And sure, you've got people like that in this movie, especially Bad Bunny, who shows up playing Colorado, and he's like, you know, he's got a gun, he's going to point it in your face, he's going to be screaming at you and stuff like that if you don't do the things he wants you to do. And then Regina King is in here as an investigator, and she's playing like New York cop. Okay. All right. I guess that's how it is, Hank, blah, blah, blah. All right. And Hank is like just trying to keep it together because he's got a history in his life that, has kind of brought him to where he is now, living in New York City. And it makes sense why he would live in a city like this because of the things that have happened in his past. And he's a big fan of the San Francisco Giants. What could have been. He was such a good ball player as a kid in high school. And now he's just trying to find his place. And as the movie goes on, I think Austin Butler is just really terrific in this movie. He feels like a real person, really grounded, not like a jackass or anything like that. He's just a guy with problems, and when the shit goes down, it really affects him. And this movie is not afraid of showing the severity of his situation, for sure. However, when I think about what movies Darren Aronofsky has made over the years, undoubtedly this is better than The Whale. It's not nearly as ridiculous as something like Mother. I say ridiculous in the sense of oh my gosh, what is happening moment to moment? And it's obviously not as biblical as Noah. It's kind of like a more stripped down, I guess you could say, relative to his movie Pi. I haven't seen Pi in so long, but this made me want to watch Pi. It also is nothing like Requiem for a Dream. If you were thinking it was going to be one of those dramatic films where people are really suffering and going through shit, it's no, it's not like that. This is just kind of like a crime drama film, a little bit of Hank is having the worst day ever. And of course, this movie has an obvious cousin in some ways that, of course, Aronofsky was thinking of this movie. Martin Scorsese's After Hours. And there's a big connection here to the film. The bar where Hank works is called Paul's Bar. And the guy, Paul, who runs the bar is played by Griffin Dunne, who of course plays Paul in After Hours. There you go. I think Paul goes through a bit more ridiculousness in some ways than Hank, but Hank kind of has more of a dramatic edge to his night. A little less humor, but there is plenty of humor in this movie anyway. I had a good time with this movie. It does remind me of other films that I haven't seen in a really long time, stuff from the 90s, and I like this way this movie portrayed the 90s as well. I kind of was I get this, but I know some folks are going to watch this and be oh, this is just Tarantino-y, 90s film kind of stuff, and yeah, maybe it is, but it's made in the present time, but referencing an older time. And I think sometimes the movie and its styling just doesn't feel unique enough when it could, especially for Aronofsky. If you told me somebody else made this movie and he didn't, I would believe you. If they just put his name on it, because it doesn't really feel like one of his movies. However, there are some things about Hank's story that after seeing the film I kind of put together as oh, okay, maybe that, but then again, no. So I think of it as a crime drama. It's not really a crime comedy, really, at all. It's a New York film. I like the way this was shot, in the way it shows New York. It goes a bunch of different places. Do I recommend it? Yeah, I'm going to recommend Caught Stealing. I gave this 3 stars. I had a good time watching it. Will I watch it again? Yeah, maybe. But for me, the thing that stands out above all is Austin Butler. He is a movie star. He is really terrific in this. I really liked how he played Hank. He wasn't just some loser. No, it's Hank had a real heart of gold, and the way Hank deals with everything, it makes perfect sense. You understand who he is and what he's going through. Oh man, he definitely is eating Brad Pitt's lunch with this movie for sure. And I look forward to seeing what else he's gonna do next, after Dune 2 and Elvis, and even after Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I can't say I've seen Austin Butler in a movie and haven't liked him. And he was briefly in Eddington, and I wanted more of that character. He's got it. He's got the keys. He's got the things you need to make it as an actor, in my opinion. And I find him very, very good on screen. Really great actor. Yeah. So, Caught Stealing from 2025, directed by Darren Aronofsky. Like I said, 3 stars. Do want to also mention that there are some very 90s song usages in this one, though not the one you're probably thinking is going to be in this movie. It is not an early 90s movie. It is a 1998 movie. So I'll just say that. And plus the title has a slightly different meaning. He's a ball player. Come on now. But yeah, that is the episode. I have no idea what movie I'm seeing next. I don't know. I hope you enjoyed this episode. It'll be a couple weeks until we talk again. But regardless, I'll be talking movies soon. And then around the corner we got October. And you know what that means. Spooky season, Halloween, all that stuff. Yeah, I'll be watching some horror movies. I've got a couple in my mind that I think I want to watch soon. There's a lot I need to watch and catch up on. And luckily I have things like Tubi and Canopy that are at my disposal. But going to the theater, I don't know. We'll find out soon. But yeah, I'm Mallory. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Go to cinema5000.com. That's where the blog posts are for updates. There's also other subscription links on there for all the platforms I'm on for my podcast, and on YouTube, Cinema 5000 Podcast. On Bluesky, Cinema 5000 is the name. If you want to send an email, send it to cinema5kpod@gmail.com. I will talk to you soon when I talk to you. It's going to be a bit, but yeah. All right. Thank you for listening.